Here we have a SAT math problem. Okay, let's go to the question. Which of the following functions could represent the graph of f of x shown in the xy plane above? Okay, here we have the graph of the function f of x. In the given answer choices, we have to find the function f of x which represents this graph over here. Okay, when I consider the function in each answer choice, we have a product of a linear factor and a quadratic function over here and here in all the answer choices. Okay, so here when I multiply the linear factor and quadratic factor, it will result a cubic polynomial. That is, when I multiply this x and x square, I am getting x cube as the leading term. So the same thing I will be getting in each answer choice. So the given answer choices we have the cubic functions. Now let me sketch a rough graph of a cubic function that is over here. Okay, this is a graph of a cubic function. Now we can consider the end behavior of the graph of this cubic function. So this is the left end and this is the right end. So the left end goes down, the right end goes up, because always we have to look at a graph from left side to right side. So here the left end goes down, the right end goes up. Okay, so in the graph of the cubic function, if the left end goes down, the right end goes up, then the leading coefficient of the cubic function which represents this graph must be positive. Okay, now let me sketch another rough graph for a cubic function that is over here. Now let's consider the end behavior of this graph. So here the left end goes up, the right end goes down. Okay, in the graph of the cubic function, if the left end goes up and the right end goes down, then the leading coefficient of the cubic function has to be negative. Okay, when I consider the graph we have over here, and when I look at this graph from left side to right side, so here the left end goes up and the right end goes down. So the cubic function which represents this graph must be having a negative leading coefficient. Okay, when I consider the answer choice A over here, the leading coefficient is 1/3. It's a positive value, so it's not possible. So it has to be negative. So we can reject answer choice A. So in the remaining three answer choices, we have the leading coefficient negative, that is negative 1/3. So one of these three answer choices must be correct. Okay, how do you have to decide which one is correct? For that, we have to consider the three x-intercepts of this graph over here. Okay, here we have the origin, that is 0, here we have -1, and here we have -2, and here we have -3, and here we have 1, and here we have 2, and here we have 3. Okay, the graph intersects the x-axis at 3 points. One is at x equals to -3, and other one is x equals to 1. The third one is x equals to 3. Okay, so we'll be having three linear factors. Okay, to get the first linear factor, so let's consider this x-intercept, that is x equals to -3. We have to make the right side 0. To make the right side 0, here we have to add 3 to both sides. When I add 3 to both sides, I'm getting x positive 3 equals to 0. So this is one of the linear factors of the cubic function f of x, which represents the graph over here. And to get the second linear factor, we have to make the right side 0 here in this factor. For that, we have to subtract 1 from both sides. Then I'm getting x -1 equals to 0. So this is the second linear factor. Now to get the linear factor, third linear factor, so now let's consider the third x-intercept, that is x equals to 3. We have to make the right side 0. For that, we have to subtract 3 from both sides. Then I'm getting x -3 equals to 0. This is the third linear factor. Okay, now I got three linear factors for the cubic function f of x we have over here. Okay, now let me go to answer choice B. In answer choice B, I find x-3 as a linear factors. That is, I find this x-3 as a linear factor. Then the product of this linear factor x positive 3 and this x-1 must be equal to the quadratic factor x square -2x -3. Okay, now let me multiply this x positive 3 and x-1 over here. Let me do it. X-3 times x-1. We can use FOIL method to multiply these two binomials. That is, x times x is x square. X times -1 is -x, positive 3 times x is positive 3x, positive 3 times 1 is -3. Okay, here x square. When I combine -1x, positive 3x, I'm getting positive 2x, -3. Okay, when I multiply these two linear factors, I'm getting a quadratic factor, x square positive 2x -3. But here I'm getting x square -2x -3. So when I multiply the remaining two linear factors, that is not equal to the quadratic factor we have over here. So answer choice B cannot be correct. We can reject answer choice B. Okay, now let's go to answer choice C. In this answer choice C, we see that x positive 3 as a linear factor. That is, this linear factor x positive 3 over here. Then the product of this linear factor x-1, x-3 must be equal to this quadratic factor x square positive 4x positive 3. Okay, now let me multiply these two linear factors. That is x-1 and x-3. Let's use FOIL method to multiply them. X times x is x square. and x times negative 3 is negative 3x, and negative 1 times x is negative x, and negative 1 times negative 3 is positive 3. Okay, here we get x square. When I combine negative 3x and negative x, I'm getting negative 4x, positive 3. Okay, when I multiply these two linear factors, I'm getting the quadratic factor x square negative 4x positive 3. But here I'm getting x square positive 4x positive 3. Here we have negative 4x, here we have positive 4x positive 3. So when I multiply the two remaining linear factors, this one and this one, I don't get exactly this quadratic factor. So we can reject answer choice C as well. Okay, now let's consider answer choice D. In answer choice D, again, we find this x positive 3 as a linear factor over here. Then the product of this one and this one must be equal to x square negative 4x positive 3. Okay, already we got the product of this x negative 1 and x negative 3, and we got that x square negative 4x positive 3. Okay, so here when I multiply the remaining two linear factors, so the quadratic factor I'm getting over here is exactly in answer choice D. So the function f of x which represents the graph over here is in answer choice D. The correct answer choice for this question is D.